All right, so lesson two. I know these are kind of back to back, but I had a little bit of time on the weekend since I don't have school, so I thought I'd get this one to you guys a little bit faster. Um, and this one's not going to be as heavy in lead guitar, although we are definitely going to be looking at some lead guitar parts, so that should be fun. I'm also recording this on the 4th of July, so my dog is kind of freaking out, so if he starts going nuts, that's why, and we might have a little interruption from that. So hopefully he's chill now, but yeah. The first one that we're going to be looking at here is the Ink Spots tune Maybe. I really enjoyed this piece. This is one of my favorite jazz songs, and it's going to actually feature a new chord, I think, for both of you guys, which is the 7 flat 13. Now, Belle, I'd like you to actually pause the video here and see if you can find the 7 flat 13 on your own, that shape. So yeah, and Jay, I am going to show you how to play it now and how to find a flat 13 as well. So pretty much what we're going to want to start with is our F chord shape. Okay, we have our bass note right here on the 8th fret, and then we're just going to walk up our major scale 13 steps. Okay, so it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 right there. Okay, so this 13 is pretty high up, and our F7 is down here. So we can't really reach up there with the 13, so we have to find an octave or somewhere down here that we can play it and reach. So since this note here is on the B string, let's try and find it on the E here, and it should be right here, which is very easy to reach right here. So that's your 13, right, added to your normal F7 chord that we have, and then adding the 13. But it needs to be a flat 13, so it's got to come down to this 9th fret. So instead, we're going to rearrange our fingers and go right here on the E with your second finger, and then make the 3rd finger and 4th finger your normal F7 shape, and it should sound like this. And that is your F7 flat 13 right there. Very pretty suspension chord. The other chord that we have on here that you guys may not know is that A sharp with a plus sign, and that just means A sharp augmented. Belle, I know we've looked at these, and I really like to play these if they're on the 6th string as the bass note up here. So that would be for the A sharp. That would be your pinky on the 8th fret of the D, your 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the G, your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the B, and then your 1st finger on the 6th fret. So it'll sound like this. But that doesn't leave a B in the bass, like a low B, I guess. And so I'd like you to try and get your thumb there, Belle. Since we've been doing this high part, try and get that in there, so it has that low register as well. And Jay, if you can reach that, awesome, good job. But if you can't, just stick with those top 4 notes. So yeah, those should be the only 2 new chords. Let's start in on the intro here. Okay, so the intro for this piece is going to sound like this. Just like that. And this is a little tricky to play, all right? So it's going to be a bit of a finger stretch. What you want to start off doing is putting your 2nd finger on the A sharp, your pinky on an F there, on the 8th fret of the A, and then your first finger on the 5th fret of the D string. So all three together should sound like that. So pretty much it's a walk up. So you do your bass string, your A string, then your D string, then back to the A. And once you do that once, you lay your third finger onto the 7th fret to make it a half step up from where it was. So it'll be lay. And then on that third one, you want to go even farther up. Put your third finger in line with your pinky so that they're both on the 8th fret. And don't do what I did right there and push the E over the side of the fingerboard. And once you complete that walk up, you strike a big F7 chord. So very slowly. Add, and big F7. And you do that twice. And start song. So then you would play an A sharp, not an A flat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, G7, 1, 2, 3, 4, C7, 2, 3, 4. Repeat that C. Up to F7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then split bars. So just be aware those guys get 2 beats each. So it's that A sharp, 1, 2, B diminished, C minor, and F7. And then you're back to an A sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like to do that C sharp diminished on the 5th fret as my bass string. And then up to that F7. And you hold this guy for another bar. And one more. And then you add that gorgeous flat 13. 1, 2, and this is 1 beat each. So that part's a little fast. It's the same turnaround, but double time. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. After that F7. So let's play that together one time. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the 13. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I need to go in the right key. Let's try F7 flat 13. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. So this second phrase is a little different, but we start off exactly the same on the A sharp. So let's start from there. Ready, go. 1, down to G7, 2, 3, 4, C7, and repeat it. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, down to A sharp. Get that augmented, get that bass note, up to D sharp, and repeat, and down to C minor, and C minor 6. So that guy is your second phrase. You'll notice the next one, when we come down to that A sharp, it's going to be exactly the same as the very first phrase, with that being ended with that turnaround that gets 1 chord per beat, which is a little fast, but you've already done it once, so you can do it again. Let's look at the very last one. It's going to be very similar to what we just did, except for the very last 4 bars. Let's start on the C minor right there because I like playing C minor sixes. So from the C minor, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the C minor 6. So that last bar is a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like that. 1 and 2 and 3. So the last 2 bars. Just like that. And then you'd end it off. I'm going to make a backing track with this one, and the first time through, I'm going to be doing the vocals for this one, and you will be playing chords. And then the second time through, I'll be playing the chords, and I would love you guys to improv over this one, especially Belle, because, yeah, I think that you'll have less trouble with all of the chords in this one, but we need to work on improving more. And Jay, I want you to really focus on the chords with the first part, okay? So you get to hear me sing more. But luckily for you, I have an absolutely gorgeous voice. But that's all there really is for Maybe. Really pretty tune, in my opinion. And let's do the next one, which is a little jazzy Beatles piece. All right, so this guy is Till There Was You. This is a classic Beatles tune. I don't know I think Belle knows this one. I don't know about Jay, but this was on, I think they're With the Beatles album. So let's take a look at this one. All the chords should be ones that you guys know. The trickiest part of this one is a little bit of rhythm stuff. And now that I'm looking at this, there actually is one new chord, and that is the C7 sharp 5. So again, Belle, pause this one and see if you can figure out how to make it. And Jay, it would probably be good for you to pause this one too, since we went over it the last one, and see if you can count like we did last time and sharp the 5 and make it into a chord shape that would work for C7. All right, so the one I came up with, I don't know if it's exactly the same as you. There's a lot of different ways you can make a chord, but I like to play this guy right here. So it's 8 on the last string. You mute the A. Second finger plays 8th fret on the D string. Then 9th fret and 9th fret with your high E muted. And you can see this is the normal C7. Here's your 5 right here. It gets sharped. So you have C7 sharp 5, okay? And I think that's the only chord that we don't know offhand for this guy. I think everything else we should know. The weird rhythm section in this one would be at the end of the second line. You see this repeated throughout the piece. Goodness. We have F and then A minor, G sharp minor, and that is going to be split 2 beats on the F, and then 1 on the A minor, and 1 on the G sharp minor. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then landing on that G minor 7, and 2 for each of those guys. So that's the only really weird bar, okay? Let's talk intro now. The chords are written out for you. It's that first repeating measure. But as far as the actual intro piece goes, you want to start off making this shape right here. That will be a 1 barring on the first 2 strings, a second finger on your G string, and then a pinky on the 4th fret of the D. So if you strike it, it'll sound like this. Not particularly beautiful, but when you play them arpeggiated one at a time, starting at the top string and then working your way to the bottom, it sounds good. So it'll sound like this. Like that. So your first three notes will be a big triplet, and then your fourth will be a half note. So the people will be playing F while you play the first three notes, and then an F sharp diminished 7 while you play your fourth finger. So it'll be triplet 3 4, triplet 3 4, triplet 3 4, and they'll be doing F. And then for the second one, you're going to want to come up for on, like this shape right here, barring the third finger, and then your barring the third fret with your first finger, and then you have your third finger on the 5th fret of the D right there. And instead of starting on the high E for this guy, you're going to start on the B. So it'll go 3 3 5 3 like that. So those ones. So starting down here, and then 3 3 5 3. And that's your intro right there. You just play both of those 2 times. And repeat. Oh, sorry. And then you're right into those chords. So let's look at these chords here. At speed, it'll go this fast, like 1, 2, 3. There were bells on a hill, but I never heard them ringing. Right? So that fast about. So we'll go a little slower to get this guy going, and then we'll speed it up after a while. So we start on our F there. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, F diminished, sharp diminished, 3, 4, then G minor 7, 2, 3, 4, up to B flat minor, 2, 3, and remember this bar gets split, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and end on that F, 2, little turnaround with the G minor 7 to C7, and on to the second phrase, F sharp diminished, 2, 3, 4, G minor 7, 2, 3, 4, and that same thing, 2 beats on F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and yep, that's your kind of tension chord, and it'll resolve with our bridge section that starts on that B flat. 2, 3, and then make it a B flat minor. 1, 2, and wonderful roses on that F. Up to G. She tells me in sweet, fragrant meadows of dawn. And remember, I think it would probably be smarter to come up to this C7 so that you're already there for your C sharp 5. And I just like doing this C sharp 5 a little better. Down here, you can do a C sharp 5 as well. For your, on the 5th string bass, it would be like this, where you have your first finger on the 4th fret, your second finger on the 4th fret as well, muting the D. So that would be on the G. And then you have your pinky on the 6th fret of the B string, and then your third finger on the 5th of the E, and it sounds like this. I just think that one's a little harder, so I like to come up on that C7, so I'm there for the C7 sharp 5. and then we're back to our original phrase here. And I'm going to pick up the tempo a little bit now. So let's start on that F. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And that fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is our solo section here. So you'll notice that the chords are a tad bit different here. You have just a normal G minor instead of a G minor 7, so just be aware of that. So F, 1, 2, 3, diminished. There you go. And then you're down to that. And I have to flip pages here, sorry. And then and here is another new chord I guess we didn't talk about either, which is this G or B7 flat 9. So why don't you guys try and find this one? I'll give you a little bit of time. So this one was quite a bit trickier, so props if you were able to get it. And Belle, I think we've played this one once before in a piece and you really hate it. So I'm glad we get to do this one again so you can get it under your fingers a little more. So your B7 flat 9 is going to have a thumb in the bass for your B right here. And then your the rest of the shape will be your first finger on the 7th fret of the D, your third finger on the 8th fret of the G, your second finger on the 7th fret of the B, and your pinky on the 8th of the E. So the top will sound like this, with your thumb in the bass on the B. And try and mute that 5th string with your thumb. Alright, so there is your B7 flat 9. And the rest of the piece should be pretty straightforward, just stuff that we've already done. I'm gonna do a backing track for this one with vocals, and then you can play the chords. But we are also going to learn the solo for this one. So I will be playing the chords during the solo, and I expect you guys to learn the solo, and I'm going to teach it to you right now. Okay, so I'm going to put a tab on screen for you guys just so it's a little easier to learn, and you guys can follow along. But first I'm going to play it through once just so you can get it in your ears. All right, not too hard. So let's get into this one. All right, we're going to start this one on the G string here, starting on your second finger, and then we're just going to go straight to 3. Those are our first 2 notes, and then bar our first finger, because we're going to play our 1 on B and then immediately a 1 on E. And these are all just 8th notes pretty much, so it's like, is your start, and then you're going to go 3rd finger on the B string down to a 1 on the B string. Then you're going to come down 3, 2, open on the G. So all together, 2, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, open. Okay? And then you have a 3rd finger and then a 4th finger on the D string. And then you make a 2nd finger on the G, so it'll be like this. And then a 1st finger and a 4th finger on the B. 1st and 4th. So the whole thing together. 2 3 1 1 3 1 3 2 0 3 4 2 1 4. And then you go to a third finger on the B, and then a first finger, and then a third finger on the G, a second finger on the G, and then your very last note for that first run is a third finger on the G. So that last part is just let's put all three parts together now. So this next part is the chord section, okay? You're going to want to bar your third finger on the top three strings and then just flick on and off your fifth fret using your third finger on the E. So it'll be like, so 2, 3, 4. You do that 4 times, hammering on. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you slide up to the 6th fret and do the same thing, hammering on to the 8th fret. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you kind of make like a minor 7 shape, but I just lay my finger across on the 10th fret, and you just hit the D, and then you pop the top 3 strings. So it's like, so let's do all that together. So 4 flicks, then fourth string, and then pop the top. So like this. And then you have these cascading chords that are the trickiest part of the solo, in my opinion. So you want to put your second finger on the D string on the 7th fret, lay your first finger on the 5th fret, and then put your pinky on the 8th of the E string. So it'll be 7, 5, 5, 8. Then you just want to move that whole shape down a half step, and then a half step one more time. So it'll be like, and then here. So notice how we do the pop top, we do the bass note, then top 3, and same with these guys. Bass note, and when we get to this last one, then we just strike the whole chord. And it gets twice the amount of beats. It gets a whole measure. 1, 2, or sorry, half a measure. 1, 2, and then you make this really weird C7 13 thing, where you just pretty much have a C7 chord, you add a G in the bass, and then you add that 13 on the top. So the whole chord will go 3, 3, 5, 3, 5, 5. So that's the difficult chord section. So starting from that 10th fret, it goes, oh sorry. And then that big chord. And then you come down to that kind of an F shape, where you bar 1s and then put a 2 here. You strike the top E twice. Sorry, when I say 2 here, it's going to be on the G string, and the bar is going to be on the top 2 strings. So it's 1, 1, and then moving over to the B string, 1, and then to the G, 2. So, and then you strike an open A, and then put your third finger on A, first finger on D, and then your fourth finger on D. So, and then you go back to that first kind of shape where you bar the first finger and then put the second on the the G string, and you just come down this time. So 2 1 1. So it'll be like 3 1 4 2 1 1, and then you're right back into that chorus and music and wonderful roses. So not too bad. I know it's kind of long, but since you have it written out for you, I think you should be able to figure out. And yeah, just practice that with the little backing track I made. So yeah, let's have some real fun now. Time for Zeppelin. And this is a gorgeous Jimmy Page piece. Let's take a look at this one. This is Ramble On, in case you don't know it by that first chord progression. And it just has some really fantastic creative way to make chords. We're going to start on an E major for this guy, which you would think is down here traditionally, but we're going to play it up here at the 12th fret in that same style, with your second finger on the 14, your third on the 14 of the D, and then your first on the 13, and striking open strings. So it's just moved up past the 12th fret, still an E. And then you want to move that whole shape down to the 12th fret with your first, so it's like 12, 12, and 11. And it gets one strike. So strike, and then you move down to this beauty. This one is kind of like a 7, but moved back farther and over on the strings. You're going to start with your third finger on the 9th fret of the A string, your first finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and your pinky on the 9th fret of the G. So it'll sound like this. And you just want to hit those bottom 4 strings for this one. So see how this only gets one hit, and you're down to there. Next thing you're going to want to do is slide up. And this is like a major shape, but you're just playing these 3. 7 on the D, 6 on the G, and 5 on the B. And only those 3 strings. So it's almost like a Beatles chord, but moved back a string. And then you hammer on your pinky to make it a 7, 7, 5. And then take it off. And then you're back up to the top. So the whole thing will sound like this. You get bonus points if you slide up on that. Absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So the next part sounds like this. It's a little more tricky, but just as pretty. So let's go over this guy. You're going to start bent up during a chord. I love it. 11th fret of the G string, but you're going to start as if it was on the 12th. And you're going to let it down mid-chord. You're striking these top 3 strings here. So, as if it was 13. So just try this. That's your first part. Then you come down to the 6th. And this one, you start bent as well, but it's only a half step bend to 7 instead of a whole step. So. And then you flick off to 4. So, all together. So, after you come down to this 4, you slide down to your 2nd fret of the G, and you pull off to 1, and then place your 2nd finger there. It's kind of a fast move. So. Alright, so for this next part, if you listen really closely, you'll hear that I'll actually have a little bit of distortion on my guitar. So it's a little more raucous, this one. So it'll sound like this. So anyways, let's take a look at this one. We start on a big E chord. I know, Jimmy Page playing an E chord, crazy. I've never seen that in like all of the songs, but this is how this part starts off. And it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you take off the top of your E for 1 beat. And then you do these 2 9s, okay? And this is a 9 on the A and a 9 on the G. So not like 7, but moved over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then you slide down. So that first part. Like that. Then you want to slide up with 7 on the D string, open, and then 5 on the B. You want to slide that shape down a whole step. And then you want to play open A and D. And then play a D chord. So it'll be like open and D chord. So that whole thing. Just like that. And you play that little riff 4 times. Not too hard. I'll add the link for the song for this one so you guys can play along. I just think it's super pretty, and I'm especially the definitely a favorite of mine to play on acoustic. So I just think it's good to know, and a fun kind of fusion of lead and interesting chords. So hopefully you'll enjoy this one as much as I did.